Okay, so since you are here, I am assuming that you are familiar with Elasticsearch, or maybe you are using it in your company and you want to understand how Elasticsearch works. So in this video, we would be diving a bit deep into how Elasticsearch starts when we give a command and how it knows what response to give. So for whenever you give a command. So for example, if we go localhost 9200 cat slash indices, I will be getting a list of indices that I have in my instance, in my ES either cluster or the node. So I want to understand how Elasticsearch knows what response to give when the cat indices is performed. Similarly, whenever any cat API is being called, how does it know what to respond with? So for this, we would be looking at the code base, and this is the Elasticsearch. So right now I'm dealing with version 5 of Elasticsearch, so I'm making a video regarding that, but going forward I'll be making more videos regarding the other versions of Elasticsearch. The class that we want to look at right now is REST indices action. This is a class which is inside this action.cat package, and you can see here in the constructor it has the slash cat slash underscore cat slash indices slash particular index if you want to get information regarding a particular index. Now we know that this class seems to be responsible for sending the data, do cat request, right? So this is a request and this is all the code that is happening. But so this we can understand later, like how exactly it is giving you the data. But how does Elasticsearch know to come here for whenever a request of this type is coming? How does Elasticsearch know to come here and give you the response? For that, one way we can go is we can check where this function is used and we can trace back. Or in this video, what I'll be doing is I'll be going forward. So whenever you open a terminal and you type Elasticsearch, what happens and how Elasticsearch gets started, that flow we will be checking in this video. So this is the Elasticsearch.main. This function gets called from the terminal whenever we are calling the Elasticsearch. So in this method, we will be tracing overview of all the methods and classes that are used. So first, when you enter Elasticsearch in the terminal, the first thing that gets called is the security manager. There is a error listener register, and then this is the main method. In this main method, this Elasticsearch instance is passed and Elasticsearch.main is called from here. Now we'll go inside this main. First thing that we will see is there is a shutdown hook that is getting attached. We can skip that. There is a logging configuration. This also we can skip. And then we come to main without error handling. One, we can check main without error handling. We will go inside the execute method and we will see where the implementation of this execute method is. So we'll come here, and this is the package that org Elasticsearch CLI environment aware command. Now we are inside the execute method and we can see these are the setting options and the option set that is provided from the terminal. We are setting some system properties here, and then we will go to this execute method. In the same Elasticsearch, we will see this execute method. In this execute method, we will see there are a few things happening here. We are checking the versions and all. If all the options here, and then we will go into init. In this init method, we are calling bootstrap.init. In this bootstrap init, there is one method that we have to check. So this is the bootstrap. This is an instance of this bootstrap class. Inside this, there is this function called instance.setup. Right, so inside this setup method we will go and we will see what it is doing. So here the main thing that we have to check is there is a jar health check that runs before the product, and the main thing comes here. So we are creating a node. Okay, and we will see what is happening when we are creating this node. In this node we will come here. Okay, and now we are at the main crux of the code that is responsible for initializing the whole Elasticsearch. Now we are inside the node and we will see what happens when this gets called. But before this, there is one important concept or framework that we need to know about is Google Juice. So what Google Juice does is, you can open it here. We'll check this website, what Google does. So basically Elasticsearch uses dependency injection, and for that it uses Google Juice. So what it does is, we tell what all dependencies might be required while creating the objects of the class, and those dependencies are provided at runtime. There is a very good tutorial, maybe you can check this website, or there are a few playlists that will help you with Google Juice that I will link in the video. So we will see how that comes in action here, but before, let's see. So there is a logger for initializing, then there is temp settings and all. Next thing, that's important thing that we need to check here is the action module. Let's find out. Action module. So basically action module is responsible for all the actions that happens in your Elasticsearch cluster. Whenever you ask for a indexing object, or if you are asking for a put index template, or if you are asking for get request, everything is using this action module. If we go here inside, we can see that if it's not using a transport client, then there is a REST controller added to during the action module creation. And this action module gets added to the modules, and this module then uses, so basically this is the use of the Google Juice to provide the dependency at runtime. So node.class, whenever it's getting binded to this node service, client class is getting binded to client. The important thing that we need to check here is this module creates an injector, and this injector is used to initialize the client. So whenever a client needs a class and there is some dependency, this injector will provide that dependency. Now the next thing that we need to know is, if HTTP is enabled, we will initialize REST handlers. Okay, so we will go inside this REST handler and see how this works. So now we are here, action module.initialize REST handler, and we are passing a list of nodes here. If it is required, it will be used. Now let's go inside this method and see. So basically what is happening here is, whenever a new REST main action kind of any object is created, we are passing the REST controller. This REST controller is the same REST controller that was created by action module when action module was created. So if you see here, if you have if you are not only using transport client, then we are using a REST controller also. So this REST controller gets passed to the netty, which in turn it uses this to map the URLs to the class that will be providing you with the response. So now let's see. Let's check the class that we are most interested in right now, that is REST indices action. Let's search for it here, REST indices action. So inside this class, if we see, we are passing settings, REST controller, and index name resolver, because it requires index name. Maybe we can make a video over it later at some point. REST indices action, what it does is, it takes the controller that is created in action module, and it registers this get handler. This is the path, and this should be the class. It is attaching itself, and for this as well. So all the actions get registered to the REST controller, and then this REST controller in turn takes care of, whenever you get a request, this should be the class that should be called. So Now let's see what happens when you give a indices request. You come here, this is the request that we have received. Now let's talk about how it is getting the response that it needs to send. So basically there are three requests that is happening. First is a cluster state request. Once the cluster state request is received, that is the cluster state response. From this cluster state we get the indices list. From this indices list we get the cluster health request. We create a cluster health request based on these indices that we have filtered out, and we get a response. So cluster health response will tell us what all indices are present and what is the health of the cluster with those indices. And after that we create another request, which is indices stats request. So basically the stats that gets shown in the UI are created here, and then once we have received the response for it, then we are creating this response. Even all these requests are mapped internally using the same action module, and the client knows where those actions should be redirected. So you can see this index stats request requires a response, and let's see. Index stats action. So this index stat action is added in action module here. So whenever an index request stats action request comes, this should be the class that should be created, that is transport indices stats action. So in this you can see what happens and how it gets the response. So this was all for this video. If you are interested in learning more about Elasticsearch, you can let me know. I'll make more videos. If not, then let's see what else I will do. Thank you.